All right, let's try that with sound this time. Give me another second. Sorry about that. Because it is a beautiful song. All right, take two.
From the light of days remembered burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of the living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin.
Well, good morning and welcome one and all to the Namakwa Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Laurel Liefert, and I have the honor of serving this bold, bright, resilient, curious, creative community of justice-loving seekers. I use the pronouns she, her, and hers, and today I want to acknowledge that the land that the church is on is previously Arapaho, Cheyenne, and the 7 Council Fires, which refers to the collective of Lakota and Dakota and Nakota and Ute. The Namakwa congregation is a Unitarian Universalist congregation, and we are a people of open minds, of loving hearts, helping hands, gutsy creativity, and feet that walk our talk. So if anyone is a visitor today, that's who we are, and we would love to know who you are. So if you are new or relatively new and would like to find out more about this gutsy creative community, please put your name and contact information in the chat and we will follow up with you. So today is a very special day. I know that we have one kind of visitor, Robert Latham, who I will introduce a little bit later in our program, but I'm super, super excited about today. Now, you may notice that I'm not at church, and in fact, I'm not even in my apartment. I'm still in California because I had a cold when I came here. And then when I heard last week about the 3 breakthrough COVID cases, I started getting worried. So I had a COVID test. The results wouldn't be out in time for my flight back on Friday. So my test was negative, and that means I will return to my Colorado home tomorrow. So with no further ado, let me once again give you a warm welcome, a special welcome to Kathy and family. And now for our chalice lighting, our ministerial intern, Claire, and me. So come, let us worship together. Let us worship with our eyes and ears and fingertips.
Let us love the world through heart and mind and body.
We feed our eyes upon the mystery and revelation in the faces of our beloved companions.
We seek to know the wistfulness of the very young and the very old, the wistfulness of people in all times of life.
We seek to understand the shyness behind arrogance, the fear behind pride, the tenderness behind clumsy strength, the anguish behind cruelty.
All life flows into a great common life if we'll only open our eyes to see our companions.
Let us worship not in bowing down, not with closed eyes and stopped ears.
Let us worship with the opening of all the windows of our beings, with the full outstretching of our spirits.
Life comes with singing and laughter, with tears and confiding, with a rising wave too great to be held in the mind and heart and body, to those who have fallen in love with life.
Let us worship and let us learn to love.
With the kindling of this flame, come, let us worship together. And now if you'll join me in our congregational affirmation that we say together every Sunday. Love is the spirit of this church and service its call. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And now for our opening hymn, I think one that many of you are familiar with. It was written by Jim Scott, a songwriter and a singer who came to Namaqua a couple years ago and sang in one of our services and also presented us with a concert. And so please sing loud and clear with your microphones muted, our opening hymn, Gather the Spirit. When we get back together, because that's in waltz time, I think I've seen you all kind of swaying when we sang the chorus together. So keep that in mind. We'll be back there one of these days. And so now Claire, our wonderful intern, has a story for us.
This is a very delightful book by Corey Tabor called Mel Fell. One day, when Mama was away, Mel decided it was time to learn to fly. She had been in the nest long enough. Aren't you scared? Asked her sister Pimp. Yes, said Mel, but I won't let that stop me. She looked down. Sure is a long drop, said her brother Pip. Well, said Mel, I've got wings. Mel was scared and it was a long drop, but today was the day she would fly. See you soon, she told her siblings. She jumped, she flipped, she spread her wings, and then she fell. And there's a tiny blue bird falling straight down, 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 down. She passes some owls. Mel fell and fell. She passes a bunch of squirrels. The squirrels tried to catch her. They really did. They'd grown quite fond of those squeaky little chirpers upstairs, and the squirrels shout, blast, nuts, oof, ee! But it was no use. They missed her by a whisker. Then there is a beehive, and the bees say, zee-zazoo, but they barely slowed her down. And the bees are pulling on Mel's feet, and screaming, we will save you! Next, Mel falls through a spider web, and a fly pops out saying, I'm free! Even the spider lent a hand. 8 of them, all 8 little legs holding onto Mel's feet. But Mel keeps falling. But still Mel fell. And there a slug on the side of the tree says, do not fear, helpless little bird. I will catch you. She fell and fell and fell, right past the slug. Oh no, screamed a ladybug, as Mel seems to be falling near the ground. Straight down she goes. Splash! Mel falls into the water. Mel dived into the water. She snapped her beak and caught a little fish. And now we have to turn the book upside down to finish. She kicked her legs and wiggled her tail feathers, and she spread her wings, and with the fish in her mouth, she flew. Now Mel is flying straight back up. There's a ladybug cheering her on. Mel flew and flew and flew, and all the ants are dancing for her, and the slug is astonished, and the fish in her mouth is very sad. As Mel flew, the spider clapped her hands, all 8 of them. The spider's clapping, and in her web it says, yay! The fish is still sad. The bees said, huzzah, huzzah! And the bees are pushing Mel up as she flies, and the fish is still sad. The squirrels raced her to the top, and the owls are looking at her, and the squirrels are dancing, and the fish is still sad. Mama was waiting when she got there. I flew, said Mel, and she's dancing and chirping, and the fish fell out of her beak and says, I'm flying, as it falls back down into the water. And there's Mama and Mel hugging. I knew you could, said Mama. I knew I could too, said Mel. Do not fear, helpless little fish, I will catch you, says the snail. Splash, the fish falls into the water. And there are the birds ready to push the next one off of the tree.
Very apropos. Thank you, Claire. Well, for joys and sorrows, which we think is worth spending time each Sunday, understanding and hearing what's going on in our personal lives, I heard that last week was a long sharing time. And right now, I want to again say hello to Karen Brock, who we haven't seen for a long time. Welcome back to Jan Wright, who returns from her time away. Welcome to Kathy, a newcomer here, and welcome to all of you. And so if you do have something to share, let me first ask if anyone has a birthday or anniversary around now. And if so, put your name in the chat or raise your hand. Fran Green, unmute.
I turn 78 on Friday. I feel quite ancient, but I hope this will be the last week I have to wear this brace. So.
Wow. Well, you know, if we were in the sanctuary, we would give you a resounding, well, maybe we'll do it anyway. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Fran. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Well, you make 78 look mighty fine. And I wonder how your hands are doing.
This one's good. This one still has some, well, I'm muted now.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm
Right
looking,
one's doing well, left one still has some issues. But
well, I'm
getting better.
hoping for that idea of a blues band of ukuleles.
Me too.
Hold that thought. And Janan turned 54 last week. And so you were off gallivanting with your husband and came back early because of the fall colors, which are magnificent. So happy birthday to you. Can you just pretend like we sang happy birthday to you? Anyone else, a birthday or anniversary? Let me see in the chat. Okay, so Janet.
I turned 32 today. Not today.
It's a miracle. Whoa, we are quite the congregation. Turning back the clock. And let's see, we've got Janet ahead of time saying because she won't be here next week, she'll share now that her daughter Michelle has a birthday on November 5th. So happy birthday from us to your daughter Michelle. And then Chad is here celebrating with Chelsea and his little adorable dog, Angel. So whose birthday is it, Chad? Or you're just celebrating because life is good? Because life is good.
It's my birthday. Yeah, it's my 32nd birthday today.
Oh.
So perfect timing. Great to be with you guys.
All right. Well, happy birthday to you, dear Chad. And I'm glad that you have some good mammals to celebrate with.
Thank you.
And then Mickey typed that Vaughn and Mickey returned from, oh, that's right, a week in New England. And so Vaughn was a wonderful tour guide. Oh, and Mickey celebrated visiting his 50th state with a whole Maine lobster dinner. Lucky you. And who was it, anyway, you had not North Dakota, you had Maine as your last one. So you went from west to east, and I'm glad that you reached that maybe bucket goal of all 50 states. And Vicki loves being read to. And Claire does have an amazing repertoire of children's books. And then Pete Buckmeyer is visiting the Buckmeyer clan in Seattle. I'm assuming that maybe Jennifer typed that. So we've got lots to celebrate. And joy and woe are woven fine. So there may be some of you who have something too tender in your heart to speak out loud. Francie is excited that there's a rip-roaring rainstorm here in the Bay Area. Have you read about it? I think it's pretty major news. that we have what's called an atmospheric river that may dump up to like 8 inches of rain in some places. So the good news is that California has had a drought, a horrible, horrible drought. But because also the wildfires have stripped a lot of the soil of the ground cover, there's definitely a danger of flooding. And selfishly, I'm hoping that my flight tomorrow is not affected by the weather. So if there's no one else who'd like to share out loud, again, let's for everyone do our new response, which is for all of those things that have been spoken and all of those who have shared. We hear you. We hold you. And we care for you. And now one more time, sending it out to the larger world, which also has joys and sorrows. We hear you, we hold you, and we care for you. And if you'll please just repeat after me, in our joy and in our sorrow, we are not alone. We'll have our offertory now, which is one of the ways that we care for our community. Namaqua has what's called a half plate ministry, where we share our collection each quarter with a local nonprofit that embodies our values. And this quarter, it's the Larimer County Food Bank. And so Doug will put a donate button up on the screen. And please know that you're also always welcome to send in your donation to the church by check, I guess, or cash. And if you do by check, put in the subject line collection or donation so that we know it's not your pledge. And while we're collecting and receiving our offertory, enjoy this short, beautiful rendition of Come, Come, Whoever You Are.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, even though you've broken your vows 1,000 times. Come, come, still come. This is not a caravan of despair. This is not a caravan of despair. Come, come.
We dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings, to the vision of this congregation, which is to radiate love, peace, and justice as together we work to grow beloved community. And now, before I introduce our guest speaker, we have one more song. May nothing evil cross this door.
May nothing evil cross this door, and may your fortune never pry about these windows. May the roar and rain go by. By faith made strong, the rafters will withstand the battering of the storm. This hearth of the world grow chill will keep you warm. Peace shall walk softly through these rooms, touching our lips with holy wine, till every casual corner blooms into a shrine. With laughter drown the raucous shout, and though these sheltering walls are thin, may
Well, I am thrilled to introduce our guest speaker today, the Reverend Robert T. Latham, who I met back in the year 2000 when he came to the Oakland congregation after our beloved ministers left, after being there for 18 years, and he was our interim. And I have to admit that he did not win any popularity contests at the beginning, because he had the nerve to be behind the pulpit instead of Jan and Rob. And not only that, we not only loved our minister, we really loved our liturgy. And Robert messed with our liturgy. And in fact, he just kept stirring and stirring and stirring things up. And people did not understand what was going on. But then I noticed during the meetings, him listening very intently. And then at key moments, he would hold up a mirror and tell the congregation what he saw. And he did his job so well that by the end, after me and another attorney that later turned to UU minister, Preston Moore, made one fine roast and toast of our interim minister, Robert Latham. That was when we presented him with a spoon, which is a Kochlöffel in German. It's a soup spoon that you stir the soup with. And then, as some of you know, Robert then gave me the spoon when I became installed as the minister of Namakwa. So already your influence on Namakwa has been, I suppose, indirect through me. But then imagine my surprise when I came here and discovered that you were probably one of the most, if not the most popular guest minister at a time when Namakwa did not have full-time ministry. And you also used your remarkable consulting skills based on being a settled minister in 4 different UU congregations and an interim minister in 7 different congregations. You also have a consulting firm called Mything Link and have written many amazing books, including the Folly Lane one. And one that I particularly like is the one that you wrote in 2020, which is very appropriate: American Democracy, Suicide or Revolution, the life and death struggle between democracy and despotism. And Robert also wrote a chapter, which he'll talk a little bit about, in a book that is the common read for the elected leaders of Namakwa this year, which is called In the Interim. So Robert, if we were in the sanctuary, you would now be stepping up to the pulpit, maybe giving me a little hug and a kiss, and there would be wild applause by the congregation welcoming you in anticipation of your words of wisdom that will be offered at this key time of transition in our congregation. So take it away, Robert.
Thank you. I'm delighted to worship with you today. The last time we worshiped together was in September of 2014, and I came to you in the person of Moses as you kicked off your capital campaign to purchase your own physical home in this community. You knew that you would always be viewed as transient until you put down roots and showed the local population you were here to stay. As we looked at Moses and his experience with the burning bush that was not consumed by fire, I suggested to you these metaphorical truths. The burning bush represents a vision of what is not, but can be. That this vision empowers to do what might seem impossible. That pursuing this vision makes the ground holy upon which one stands. That the commitment to the vision determines both the quality of the journey and the outcome of the journey. Now, you have purchased and paid for this permanent home. You have fulfilled the vision. But most important, you have fulfilled the larger vision of calling a full-time minister in the person of one Laurel Liefert. At the end of this church year, your relationship with Laurel as your settled minister will come to an end. Out of the necessities posed by this separation, you will need to rekindle the flame of the burning bush if you expect an exciting future. And what that flame must be has already been prescribed by history, religious history. It is all you must do to successfully create a relationship with a new full-time minister. And getting there is a 3-phase process that for you will involve almost 3 years. Each phase has its own focus and requirements for success and sets up the next phase. Your elected leadership has already indicated what these 3 phases will be. What I will do is expand the focus of these phases so that out of their expectations and necessities, you'll be able to create a vision that will bring you the same kind of grand success that you have had over the past 11 years in your relationship with Laurel. It's important to understand that these 3 phases together constitute a whole in terms of engaging your future with success. The first phase I will call exactly what it is: celebration and closure. Closure is the recognition that something has come to an end. And if successfully celebrating it has been that which has transpired, then it opens to a new future. If done well, it will be with minimal regret and maximum anticipation. So view these remaining months with Laurel between now and June as a gift. During this time, look at what you have done over the past 12 years. You envisioned having a full-time minister, and you fulfilled that vision. You envision having a permanent residence in this area, and you fulfilled that vision. 11 years ago, your budget was around $94,000, and now it's over $177,000. And your statistics show that when Laurel is leading the worship service, that attendance rises as much as 40%. Now, there's a message about the values of professional ministry. You have kept your social action program alive and alert to community need. You become a teaching congregation by engaging a ministerial intern program. You have confronted the corona pandemic and navigated its necessities and kept your ministry alive and well. I've been in the professional ministry for 72 years, and I know success when I see it. And you have done something of profound excellence here, and I congratulate you for its doing. You saw the burning bush, you engaged its vision, you entered the promised land, you built a temple, you housed it with both professional and lay visionary leadership. What an accomplishment. You are a mature religious institution. It's obvious to me that you can do anything you set your vision to do, which means you can become whoever you want to become. So the immediate question is, who do you want to be between now and the time Laurel ceases being your minister? I suggest you lay aside regrets over Laurel's leaving, which I know you have, but it's a done deal. Accept it and spend your time doing necessary and important things, profitable things. What might these be? Well, here are a few. Define anything else you can still do together to strengthen the ministry of the congregation and do it. This is called tying up loose ends. A loose end is what you can do but has not yet been done. Maybe there will be nothing, but you want to be sure. Recognize anything that needs to be mended in your congregational relationship with Laurel and take care that it is resolved. Perhaps there is nothing, but again, be sure. Do some relationship analysis and ask yourself why it has been successful on the part of both minister and congregation. Why do you click together? And what might this speak to your future congregation minister relationship? Continue doing the kind of ministry you've been doing and engage in any new challenges with the same can-do visionary spirit you have created as your posture toward your religious mission. List all of the major successes and determine how you can celebrate them. Congratulate yourselves, but do so with a spirit of humility, which recognizes that it has taken the entire congregation, whatever the individual contributions might have been, to have created such grand success. Laurel will be your minister until she leaves, but when she's gone, she will no longer be your minister. Define the boundaries that you will place around the relationship of congregants with Laurel once she's gone. You can't regulate such boundaries. People will do what they wish, but the membership needs to know what is appropriate for safeguarding your new ministerial relationships from being sabotaged by hanging on in some fashion to the old ministerial relationship. Real closure must acknowledge that Laurel is no longer your minister, and members will no longer resort to that relationship for guidance. Create a covenant that will guide the new relationship and engage it at your closing worship experience with Laurel. And finally, plan a celebrative bash to end your partnership on a high note. Create a special committee for this purpose. Roast Laurel, she deserves it. Give folks an opportunity to testify. Have good food, include the cat. Maybe make some fine special music. Have a dance. Remember the bash that you put on when Laurel arrived to become your first called minister? I remember it because I was there. That's the kind of event that I'm suggesting. And the reason is that the ending of a meaningful relationship is as important as its beginning. Give Laurel a special gift that will remind her of the ministry that has happened between you, something that will provoke her to continue celebrating this relationship during her retirement years. Now, let's move on to the second phase. You will engage. It will actually begin before Laurel leaves. This coming spring, your board of trustees will start looking for a compatible interim minister who will serve in this capacity for 2 years. That ministry should begin the 1st of August of next year. It's called the interim period because that is what it is, a time of transition between settled ministers. And it is a critical time in your congregational life because it will determine your future. This time has come to be recognized by all denominations as a necessity that requires specific focus, special leadership skills to navigate. So much so that most major denominations require their ministers who lead this period to have special training on both a national and denominational level. There's an institute called the Interim Ministry Network that trains potential interim ministers of all denominations, because irrespective of style of church government or theology, members of congregations are all human and have the same institutional and congregational issues and needs, the same kind of guidance during leadership transitions. On the other side of this general training, most religious groups like Unitarian Universalists have a constant program of annual training events to address both new developments and unique issues of the interim ministry process. Ministers who do interim work are required to participate in this continuous training and upgrade program. There's a book published by Unitarian Universalist Ministry Transition Department, which I think was mentioned, but not shown. Here it is. That is designed to give guidance to congregations during this critical period. I wrote a chapter in this book entitled "The Temptation to Rush the Process." It lists the 4 types of congregation for which it is imperative to have a 2-year interim process if the congregation is to have a successful relationship with its next called minister. I name one of these congregations the bereft. To be bereft means to be deprived of something of genuine value, to suffer a significant loss. I use this term because many congregations, like Namakwa, have had a grandly successful relationship with a fine minister, and when that relationship ends, there will be a feeling of consequential loss on the part of both minister and congregation. This sense of genuine loss will not be fully felt until the relationship is actually separated. This loss and its meanings are issues the congregation must face and resolve before it can establish a relationship with another minister if it expects this new relationship to be successful. In brief, success, like failure, requires assessments which must be made lest lack of insight sabotage the next relationship. People whose marriage ends amicably in divorce are examples of the need for assessment before going into a new relationship. Those who are smart, repeat this, those who are smart and want their second marriage to be successful, or their second relationship, whatever it might be, will have a period of self-assessment when they look at who they are and what they need to become to make a new relationship work. They also need to know what they're looking for in the next relationship. I once knew a brilliant scientist who'd been married 4 times and was in the midst of a divorce. He continued to fail because he never assessed the reasons for the failure of the prior relationship in order to improve the outcome of the next one. If your congregation minister relationship has been successful, you need to identify why this has been the case. Such will give you clues about the needs and character of the next relationship. And that includes dealing with the separation and defining its dimensions as a learning experience, whether successful or unsuccessful. There are lessons to be learned from the past relationship. And this learning is called the growth of institutional wisdom. Aside from relationship assessment, here are a few of the many things that need to be dealt with during the interim period. Who are you as a congregation apart from your relationship with Laurel? What is your separate identity? The one you will carry into the next ministerial relationship. What are the primary characteristics of your identity? What is your sense of religious mission? What is your theology? What message do you proclaim to the world? What is your congregational vision for the future? Who do you want to become? What characteristics would a professional minister have to have that would empower you together to fulfill your mission and vision for the future? And not least, what kind of budget must you have? What kind of compensation package must be offered to attract such a minister? Any qualified minister who wants to become your next settled minister will want to know the answer to all of these questions before making a judgment about compatibility. In brief, you need to know both yourself and the kind of ministerial leadership you need apart from Laurel. You need to know all of this before you elect a ministerial search committee. And you need to do so that committee will reflect your congregational identity and vision as you search for a new minister. And to do so, such assessment will take you a year of work on the other side of Laurel's leaving. Only when this is done can the ministerial search committee begin its work. On the other side of its election, this committee needs a full year for its own work, if for no other reason than to create a ministerial search committee that knows what it is doing and who it's looking for. A 2-year interim is an absolute requirement. And while you're setting up for your future, you must also be leading with your past, with a healthy closure of your relationship with Laurel. Closing relationship can never be done with complete success until after the parties have separated. Time is required for the congregation to grieve and to refocus in a positive manner. Experience shows that for a congregation that has been as successful as yours have together with Laurel, a full 2 years is necessary to do this work in combination with everything else you will be doing that I've already mentioned. As a congregation, you need to be totally healthy in order to begin a healthy relationship with a new settled minister. Now, here's some other information that will be helpful for you to know. When you engage an interim minister, you're not calling that minister. The congregation's board of trustees does the hiring and the co-leadership during this 2-year process. Often, the board appoints a special interim committee to work with the interim minister. The interim minister is a specialized consultant and not a settled minister. This minister will see differently, behave differently, lead differently, all consistent with its different purpose. And if the interim minister does what she or he is supposed to do, then a new style of worship will be modeled, as well as new ways of processing ministry. The congregation needs reminding that there are many ways to access the holy, aside from what is being presently modeled. This is one of the primary needs of the interim period, namely, for the congregation to be exposed to a different ministerial style. After all, what the ministerial search committee will be presenting to you when you make your recommendation, when they make their recommendation of a new settled minister, is a totally new style of ministerial leadership. And if this new relationship is going to work, you as a congregation need to be prepared to embrace it with openness as opposed to resistance. The interim period is a time when the congregation begins to engage this necessity. There are no other Laurel Lieferts. Actually, the world couldn't handle more than just one. So don't make the perilous mistake of trying to reduplicate her. Calling a minister of a different style and perspective opens an entirely new and provocative future for the congregation. The interim period is a time when the congregation has an opportunity to convert their relationship loss into lessons and perspectives that will define and benefit their future relationship. Here is the bottom line for the interim period and the role of the interim minister. That person's purpose is to help the congregation to raise its spiritual health to the highest level possible, so that the relationship with the new called minister will have the highest possibility of success. You need 2 years as a congregation to come around to such a spiritual state of being. Then you will enter a new and third phase of ministry with a new settled professional minister. It is the nature of that relationship that will determine your congregational destiny. The purpose of the first 2 phases is to open this third phase to the possibilities of success. It's all about your future. I'm going to close with a new metaphor. Over the next 2 years and 9 months, you're going on 2 major fishing expeditions. But first, you're going to spend some time preparing by effecting a healthy closure with Laurel. Then you're going fishing for a seasoned interim minister. And following that, you are going fishing for a top-notch settled minister. 2 expeditions. My father was a fisher person, and I learned a lot from him that applies to my living. I share 2 of these lessons with you because they apply to the interim period. Here's the first one. You can only catch the fish that are available to be caught. They have to be in the pond where you are fishing. At any given moment in time, there will be a different pool of interim ministers and a different pool of settled ministers for your availability. And that pool will be dictated by when you are fishing. You do not have any control over who is available and who is not. There's only one thing you can do to exert any measure of control over this giving. You can be sure you throw out the best lure you have to attract the ministers you want most, both the interim minister and the new settled minister. This means you need to present your best self as a potential ministry partner in the most honest light. You need to offer the best compensation package you can afford to sweeten the allurement. I noticed that your average pledge unit is $1,800. How can you sweeten the lure if your pledge unit average went up to $2,000? If you want the best, you have to offer the best. One of the things I observed about my father when he fished was this: others could fish before him and catch nothing, including myself. And he would come along and catch a fish in the same water. Why? Because he knew how to lure the fish in his direction. If you want the best ministerial leadership, you're going to have to practice this art. Here's the second lesson. Know where you are at all times. That's the purpose of this whole transitional period and why it takes the amount of time it does. We often had to hike a few miles to get to the best fishing places. When he would park the car and we would get out and gather our equipment, he would stop and point to a landmark that was in the direction we were headed. Then he would turn around and point to a landmark in the opposite direction. In case we got separated or in case I got lost, then I knew how to arrive where we're going or to return safely to where we started. We practiced this until he was sure I was doing this on my own, could take care of myself. Eventually, I understood the more important meaning of the exercise. It meant to know where I am in the big picture so I can successfully navigate the smaller pictures. And that is precisely the purpose of the entire interim period. It is to establish who you are as a congregation in your relationship with professional ministry and where you want to be so that you can navigate your own path and destiny. It is so you can be in control in the most spiritually healthy fashion possible. The interim period will empower you to define that character in its best light. What you're after is the best possible ministerial relationship and leadership you can have so that you can have the best possible future. Here is the institutional principle that governs why this is important. Leadership makes everything happen that's going to happen or not happen. And here's a simple warning to keep in mind about decision-making during this transition period. It's a quotation from Albert Einstein. Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Let me summarize. Transition is the most important moment in the life of a religious institution. Why? Because it determines the nature of your future. I salute you for what you have accomplished and what I anticipate you will accomplish during this interim period. Amen.
going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. We will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will get there. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will get there. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. It will be hard, we know, that the road will be muddy and rough, but we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know we will get there. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, ti-boom, ti-boom, boom, boom. It will be hard, we know, that the road will be muddy and rough, but we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. We know, we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will.
So Claire, if you will extinguish our flame, I want you all to remember this. It's a blessing you were born, and it matters what you do. What you know about God is a piece of the truth. Let the beauty you love be what you do, and know that you don't have to do it alone.
An insight from Sean Payton is our benediction. To do things you've never done before, you have to do things you've never done before. So let me share it again. To do things you've never done before, you have to do things you've never done before. Amen.
Amen. So once again, Robert, imagine us standing and thanking you, because we do. That was really wonderful. And I hope that you all have some questions, because I think that we'll skip maybe the virtual coffee hour, because we have our congregational meeting coming up at 11:30. So to give you a little bit of time to run and get some coffee or take a bio break or whatever, let's just, for this Sunday, this special Sunday, instead of having coffee hour, what we'll do, hello, Henry, we will come back at 11:30, and we'll have our fall congregational meeting. And for our fall congregational meeting this fall, we'll have a report from our staff, including me as the minister. And then, wait, just a minute. Hold on. And let me think here. And instead of a listening activity when we're in small groups, we will stay town hall style, and Robert will be available to answer any questions that you have. So as you can tell, we're entering a very rich. Do you see Francie on that? Anyway, we also have this week on our calendar at namaquauu.org, you'll see that we have on Thursday, the Social Sisterhood at noon. And then Janin has a parenting class from 6:30 to 7:30 in Parker Hall. And then next Saturday is a transitions class. It's very apropos, because not only individuals are in a time of transition, but the Namaqua congregation is in a time of transition. So that will be from 9 to noon. In the email blast that was sent out just yesterday, there's a place where you can click and sign up. And so please, for all of you who feel hungry for more in-depth reflection about times of transition, please consider joining that class. And then I'm super thrilled to be offering, again, Building Your Own Theology. So that's going to be a little bit of a longer commitment, but it will be very important, I think, for you to know not only what you don't believe, but also what you do believe. And so that will start on November 7th. I'm hoping that many of you will sign up for that. And there are some other classes as well. And then next Sunday is our traditional Dia de los Muertos service. And some of you responded to Claire's invitation, and thanks Claire for driving up from Denver to help create an altar, but others of you are invited. We have one more day to send in a short video to Claire, who will put them together and show them in the service next Sunday. And so what it will be is you perhaps bringing a photo or some other memento of someone who has gone before you, a loved one who has died, and then we'll celebrate their legacy in our service next Sunday. So let me let you go and let me see how Henry's doing. And I will see you back here. I hope all of you will come back at 11:30 and participate in our fall congregational meeting. So thank you again, Robert. We'll see you all soon.